Welcome to the Lowcountry Revolutionaries, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of Charleston, South Carolina's vibrant entrepreneurial scene. I'm your host, Bill Ballott, founder of Veritas Exoscience, and each week we're spotlighting the boldest innovators from the Chucktown startup community. These are the visionaries pouring their heart and soul into the businesses that are transferring Charleston into a global hub of creativity and American ingenuity. Get ready for raw, real conversations with the trailblazers shaping our city's future. Let's dive in. I'd like to welcome AJ Richichi. AJ is obsessed about the future of hourly workforces. He's got a passion, and his passion was embodied by the founding of Sprockets. It's an AI-powered SaaS company that connects millions of hourly workers with the world's most iconic brands. AJ, welcome today. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, good to have you on. So I'm really curious about this. So you've got this AI-powered company, and how are you working with hourly workers? Are you like I was looking a little bit on the website. I was like, it sounds like you guys are like replacing HR departments. Is that what you're doing? How does this work?
Yeah, I'd say less replacing, more focused on augmenting our departments. So we work primarily where frontline workers are reign supreme. So quick service restaurant, hotel, retail, hospitality, everything like that, where the people who are actually making the hires aren't traditional HR executives. So when you have a big company like a Blackbaud or Benefit Focus in town, you have recruiters, you have HR managers, you have generalists, you have CHRO. But if you're a 5-location franchise owner, it's traditionally the general manager of those locations that are making the hiring decision amongst a lot of other things, right? Trying to grow profits, trying to make sure everyone's trained, trying to make sure the culture's cool, dealing with troublesome customers, managing the drive-through, just like lions and tigers and bears.
Right.
And so our technology basically serves as your defuncto HR department that, JoJo, that's our marquee product, is always kind of in the background. You're doing everything else, finding applicants for you, doing an initial screen, and if it works out, putting them on your calendar to show up for an in-person interview for you to make an awesome in-person hire for a fraction of the time and minuscule of the price.
All right. Well, let me ask you an opposite question here. So if I'm an hourly worker and I want to get hired at like some restaurant or, landscaping company, what do I need to do to put into Indeed or LinkedIn or wherever I need to put it so you guys will find me?
Yeah, so we are working on the job seeker side of things, and you may have seen in the news, we actually got acquired
really?
like 6 days ago. Yeah, so we got acquired by a West Coast company called Humanly. It's an amazing company that does job seeker things for employers, and AI of all different types to help both hourly workers, salaried workers, and the companies that employ them. So certainly on the roadmap to be able to come to a place and it instantly match you to different opportunities in your area. But for right now, it's kind of you either apply to a job and they use technology like Sprockets, and then you get to speak and interact with JoJo, or maybe you have to go through a traditional hiring process, which is you show up with a resume and you hope and you pray that they come and they pick your name out of the bunch.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when someone says like, well, this sounds interesting, AJ, I'm running, I've got a restaurant, maybe 2 restaurants or a small company. I don't know anything about IT. We don't even really have like an IT department. Well, how do I even get started on this?
Yeah. So, this is all we do, right? It's like this frontline, busy implementation of technology. And in our business, we've been around for a while. We've raised 8 figures of venture capital. We've acquired companies ourselves. And like I said, we were just acquired by another company. And, we got that not from selling to restaurant owners, it's keeping them happy over a very long period of time. And so we're obsessed, just as we are, of getting you excited and making you think it's interesting, to being able to actually deploy it and see meaningful results and ROI once it's implemented within your location. So, the short of it is, we have about 30-minute onboarding. We plug in the technology into whatever your current stack is. There's no technical implementations required. There's no like IT infrastructure stuff. It layers on what you're using, and it actually simplifies a lot of the sources that you're currently using. Right. So typically when I go to a restaurant owner, I'm saying, hey, where are you posting jobs? And they say 5 different places. Right. I said, okay, where are you collecting the applicants from those jobs? And they're like, this spreadsheet, this iPhone, this this manila folder. I'm like, all right, well, use Sprockets. We'll put everything together so that you, the owner, can constantly monitor the applicant flow, the applicant spend, and the conversion rates of getting people to come work for your business, and ultimately drive the performance up so you could spend less time on like people practices stuff, trying to beg kids to come in for an interview, and more on profits, dollars and cents, which is why I think they get into the restaurant business in the first place.
That's really cool. So how do you, one of the things that kind of pops to my mind as a small business owner too, is like, okay, it's not all about volume. How do I make sure I'm getting quality candidates? What is JoJo and you guys kind of doing to help with that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've spent my entire life working on that. Yeah. And there's a lot of different things that you can do with AI. One is you can have personality assessments, right, to be able to learn more about an individual before they come into your business. That's one. And when I say, personality, I mean needs, behaviors, and that's typically administered via text or through like a traditional form where it's like 1 to 10 or A, B, C, or D. But now with technology, especially being acquired by Humanly, we have video AI screening where literally just like you and I are speaking, you have a conversation with AI so that it can learn a lot more about you as a candidate, determine if you're a fit. Wow. The same thing is we have technology that does that on a phone screen as well. And so, I get contacted, and of course, I'm talking with operators every single day where they're talking about the quality problem. And I say, okay, well, you got 100 applicants last month. How many did you sit down and talk to? Right. They're like, I don't know, like 3. Yeah. I'm like, well, that's the quality problem. Is if you had technology that at the point of application was able to gather a ton of applicant data, right, with their phone, video, or via text, then you would be able to make more informed decisions to make better hires that fit your culture and can be successful. The problem is the bottleneck that we as bios, like humans, have of being able to talk to every single person, give them the time of day, because everybody's busy. And this is something that technology can absolutely help with in a very short period of time.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I don't know if you guys do this, so I'm not saying you need to, but like one of the issues that I've experienced, and probably a lot of people have experienced in the past, is when you're a job seeker and you apply for a job, very often it's very difficult to get any kind of feedback from the process. I don't know if JoJo or the AI has anything or envisioned anything that could give that feedback to help them for the next application.
Yeah. So we take that really seriously, and we think of it in 2 ways for the business. Like, first of all, it's just good for the job applicant, right? Like, putting that aside is like, it's always good to give helpful feedback to people primarily in the hourly workforce that may not have the same advantages as you do to find meaningful work. Sure. So first of all, we should help them, and that matters from an intrinsic value. But it makes sense, and the reason why we dedicate resources to helping them beyond doing good for the world is oftentimes in frontline, the people who apply for your jobs are oftentimes customers. And so if it's a restaurant and somebody eats at your restaurant and they apply to work at it, are they going to come back if you ghost them? Right. If they have a bad interview process, will they come and eat their next meal there? Probably not. And so I think of it less as an application process, as more of a community building exercise that you're constantly doing in the hiring motion that, if not treated properly, can have tremendous harm to your business long term. Wow. That's really insightful and really clever. It's like, I don't think I've heard anybody kind of put it in that kind of framework before. So that's very just inventive and really,
kind of groundbreaking is the way you approach things, because,
right.
You could say it. Yes, you could say it about a restaurant business, but you could say that same thing about a consulting business or almost anything else too, right?
Anything. And like, if you look at conversion rates, not to totally nerd out here, but only about 3% of people who applied to an hourly job take it.
Oh, really?
And these are, I would say, lower, I hate that phrasing, but lower skilled jobs that doesn't require a lot of qualifications. And what's interesting about that is 97% of the people don't take the job, but probably a vast majority of that, one, need it, and two, are qualified to do it. Right. So when I scratch my head, I'm like, what's so interesting about that is when people say there's nobody out there, right? Like, I can't find anyone, right? But 100 people come in, you're only hiring 3. So I say, well, what are you doing with the other 97%?
Correct.
And they look at me and they're like, AJ, like, they're dead to me. They're what I call lovingly like in the applicant graveyard, right? Where, but there's such a culture in today's hiring environment where if somebody comes in and either you pass on them or they just don't respond, you act like they never existed, and they just sit dormant in whatever database you have. And when it's time to get new people, it's like, oh, well, we gotta do more job fairs. We gotta put more money into a job board. I'm like, no, you already own your next 100 hiring classes. They're just in your database that you aren't actively harnessing. So one of the things that we designed at Sprockets was JoJo will constantly re-engage your community of applicants as job openings come up. And so, it's like, I say this when like a company gets acquired or we raise a big deal of financing, it's like a mini miracle needs to occur for deals like that to happen. But it's also in the micro when jobs happen, right? Like, this job opens up in this location and this person comes off the street, applies, is a perfect fit for the business. And it's almost like serendipity. It's amazing that it happens so often. And that's why I think the probabilities are so interesting that, you constantly want to increase the likelihood of you hiring people. So you need to constantly be in conversations with your community, right? And not rely on job board spend to constantly fill the top of the funnel when it might just be time now to do it. And JoJo is able to find that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've worked for the federal government for many years, and I'd say same thing with the federal hiring process. Once you don't get in that top 3 or top 10 or whatever it is, you're kind of in the graveyard and you have to start over for every position. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's a huge database of applicants that might not have been the best fit for this job, but could have fit somewhere out there if they were interested.
At that time. Yeah. At that time. Yeah. Right. So like, this is an interesting fact. And again, this is in the hourly space, so not salaried, but if you reach out to somebody who applied 5 years ago, or 5 weeks ago, the likelihood of them reapplying for the same job is almost exactly the same.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Think about that. So like, that's a sad story to like, upward mobility potentially in the hourly workforce. At the same time, for business owners, it's like, people do stick around, stay searching for opportunities, and there's opportunities, or there's, a high probability that if you do stay in touch with people, they will eventually, hopefully, eat at your establishment, work at your establishment as well.
Right. And, I'm with you also on this, some of the terminology around, hourly workers or around, lower skilled and all that kind of stuff. Really, in this day and age, I don't think that has the same meaningfulness to it. And it's not really true. It's like people are choosing jobs based on what fits in my opinion, what fits their lifestyle right now. And they may be, and this is a hard place to be. They may be super skilled, but they may be choosing a job that doesn't take all those skills because they need time to do other stuff or less stress or something, And then some people are trying to develop themselves and like, hey, I just need this so I can go to school or go do this other thing. There's all these other things going on.
Yeah, and I think generationally too, I mean, we can talk about this for days and days and days, is like, Gen Z and millennials don't treat work the same as X and boomers. Right. And so I always joke with my dad about this because he like will knock his head against the door being like, I don't get why this person doesn't want to work like, the traditional 80-hour weeks,
Right.
Then you come home, you buy a white picket fence in the biggest house that you probably can't afford. And like, that's the American dream, right? Is that when, I think the younger generations are more, go with the flow, working just enough to live a meaningful life. And it always makes me think of this Thomas Jefferson quote. It says, our dads were soldiers so that we could be politicians, so our kids could be artists.
Right.
And it's like, are we at that phase kind of like from a economic and a cultural perspective where this is the artist phase? So then, maybe the next one will change and we'll kind of see what's different. But yeah, I think that's, there's more than 50% of America. It's like 82 million people in the US are hourly workers. And to your point, I think a lot of that's by choice. Yeah. It's not the bottom of the totem pole. It's they want the flexibility to pursue other things in life that aren't work related.
Right.
And for me, I'm as a business owner, I have huge aspirations in business. It seems it's hard for me to relate to that, but what I understand is that it's real, it's relevant. And it's not because people are lazy. It's just they made a different choice of how they want to spend their time.
Right, right. And, it gets a little bit back to, and somewhat your product is kind of focused toward this is work-life balance. You were kind of talking about that in the beginning. It's like, hey, the general manager, this is one of the additional duties here, which is the hiring thing. I've got 10 other things I've really got to do today. JoJo kind of gives a little bit of work-life balance in there by taking some of that off the table, which is awesome. And I'm wondering, it's like, okay, so you guys just got acquired. That's probably pretty exciting. Everything's changing for you guys. Where are you kind of going with this? What's the next exciting thing here?
Yeah, I mean, last year we helped, millions of people. Next year in the acquisition, we want to help tens of millions of people. And so, like when we made our decision to sell the business, I felt like we had a really healthy, exciting company ourselves, based here in Charleston, a native AI company with its own interesting story. But, I think above all, me and the executive team and the entire company and investors, we're in this for impact. Right. And we wanted to magnify that impact by joining forces with a larger company like Humanly so that we can create meaningful change in the way people work and just the future of work here in America.
So you've kind of opened the can of worms here. So what is your vision for the future of work here in America?
Yeah, I mean, I think it needs to be better, more opportunities for those that can't help themselves.
Yeah.
And I think technology has a tremendous opportunity to make a meaningful impact on that really quickly. Like I think, with Sprockets, if you look deep enough, you'll find that the original technology was designed to create an equitable screen so everyone has a fair shot.
Sure.
So, blind resumes is like a really big thing right now. And, if you look at two people that, one person was born in inner city Chicago, then you look at my resume where, grew up and went to Harvard, we have very different life experiences, but we started on different pedestals. Right. And so, when a hiring manager is picking between those two opportunities, they might not see the accolades that they made because of the things that I have on paper, but were, earned in a different way. And so, that's like one of many ways that I think technology can have a positive change of creating more equitable process for all and help people create meaningful connections and relationships with work that result in a happier life for everybody involved.
Yeah, I like this idea of like a happier life for all. That totally makes sense to me. Let me ask you a little bit a question I think people will have out there, which is, so what about the human aspect of everything? What about in hiring, just like in you can say dating, you can say anything where there's a relationship. There's this, gut feeling you have about whether someone's going to be a good match for a little while or not. How does that come into this? Because this can't be all just AI as far as like making decisions about stuff.
Yeah. So I think about this often, right? And I think the bigger question isn't can AI solve for every use case? Instead is, can it be better than human decision making? And so if you think about that and you kind of look at just from the scope of the hourly workforce, here's some stats for you. White sounding names get 50% more callbacks than non-white sounding names for interviews, right? That's in America. That's in the US with bio recruiting. Second stat, average turnover in the hourly workforce is 144%.
Wow. That's a lot.
So yeah. So if you have a business with 30 people, that means you're going to have to make 50 hires every single year because of bad hiring.
Wow.
So that's stat two. And I'll just use QSR, and that's, what we're really intimate with is the average tenure in QSR. How long do you think it is?
A year? I don't know. Yeah.
56 days.
Whoa.
That's so when we start thinking about how technology can help and what the problem is, do I trust AI technology to make hiring decisions in the hourly workforce versus a random general manager in a quick service restaurant in Fayetteville, Arkansas? Yeah. And think about the most average hiring manager in that environment you can think of. You take a pause, like, okay, I'm thinking about the most average hiring manager inside of that thing, and think half of the people are worse than that.
Okay.
Half of the people, but if you're average, then you're at the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
Half of them are going to be worse than that.
Yeah.
So, I don't think the question is, can AI replace all, or can it, is it going to be wrong sometimes? And how does it, in that sense, I think of it more as, can it vastly improve the middle and the bottom? And I think the answer is absolutely yes.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get it. It makes sense from a bias, because everybody's got bias. That's just human nature. Everybody's biased in some way or another. We can all do things to kind of mitigate some of that. I'm a scientist. I know about bias from scientific bias and all that kind of stuff. And so, so if AI helps with some of the mitigation of that, and like you say, if it helps, I work on standards too. So if AI helps raise the bar of, the hiring process, absolutely. That sounds like a good place to start. So yeah, I can get on board with some of that.
Yeah. And I think, like with any new emerging technology, there's going to be some legislation that comes out later that's going to help try to regulate it and all these things. And we're starting to see it in like the states you would imagine, New York and California. And, what I was really excited about with getting acquired is the company Humane that acquired us is leading in ethical AI practices.
Right.
So ensuring that, as we continue to scale, we're doing it properly with the right checks and balances and audits to make sure that, we're not just thinking that it's working and it's creating a better algorithm, but it actually is doing those things as we train and develop everything. Yeah. So I'm excited about that, but it's something that we think about every single day. And I think one of the reasons why we wanted to partner with this group is for where we can do more resources to help more people and have a bigger impact. And that's certainly at the center of it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's the thing I've heard from a number of folks in this low country area. Is like they want to help people, they want to make an impact, they want to make a difference, and it's a nice culture down here for this. And so I got to ask, like, you guys are doing really well, you're successful. What advice do you have for other entrepreneurs out there in the low country area?
Yeah, I think Sprockets is a great example of how to grow a business here, at least in Charleston, or just South Carolina in general. So let me just bring you through like a quick history.
Sure.
So started, our very first office was at the Next Innovation Center in Greenville. Right. We got a $50,000 grant from South Carolina Research Authority that we then leveraged to build a beta program to win the Dig South pitch off, where they put in an additional $150,000 in a convertible note. We then raised from a local angel group, Venture South, that led our pre-seed round. Then we were able to then use that momentum to get to Series Seed, which included regional VCs from places like Atlanta.
Right.
And then when we raised our Series A, which I think was around 10 million, we were able to raise locally where everyone was able to participate pro rata, but then also in cities like DC, New York City, and San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
So, for us, we rode kind of the track that a lot of people worked really hard to build and lay the foundation for. It's something that I'm really grateful for here in Charleston. And that's, honestly, and, as I talk with my team, that's all mostly based here in Charleston too, is, I think a lot of people are going to be happy by this outcome, but more than anything, beyond customers and anything, it's a win for the region. And I hope that everyone who helped along the way and built the infrastructure for an exit like this could happen, feel good and feel celebrated, because it's just as much their win as my win, certainly. So, I think in my next phase of what I want to do, it's certainly helping with the local business community, AI community, tech community, be an advocate, champion, and a friend whenever people need it. So, as your listeners come in, follow me on LinkedIn, message me. I always want to help a neighbor, just because so many people helped us in our journey build something great here in Charleston.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have a friend at SCRA, and it's an amazing organization. I've lived in a lot of places. I haven't seen anything like that. So, and all the other parts of the journey you mentioned, it's really something special here in South Carolina that has enabled people like yourselves and companies like yourselves to really succeed. And we hope others can take advantage of that too.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Agree more.
Well, it was great talking to you today, AJ. Thank you so much for everything.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Lowcountry Revolutionaries. Thanks for joining us as we celebrate the fearless entrepreneurs making wave in Charleston's Chucktown Startups community. I'm Bill Ballott, and it's been an honor to share these inspiring stories with you. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a spark of low country innovation. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.